I've been marketing for 8 years. I built 2 7-figure businesses, and I've generated hundreds of millions of dollars for dozens of 7- and 8-figure DTC brands. Here are 8 years of marketing advice that I've learned from doing this. Number 1 is talk to your customers. Imagine you've been doing research into a car you want for the last 3 or 6 months. You've been scouring the internet and finally one shows up, and it's the exact one you want, the exact color, the exact spec. And it's at a dealership local to you. If you go into that dealership, you open the door and the car salesman starts to sell you on a completely different car. Let's say you're looking at a Porsche GT3, beautiful car, right? It's a red Porsche GT3 and you've got your heart set on this car, and then you walk in the doors and the first thing the guy starts to sell you is, oh, have you checked out the new Highlanders? Have you checked out the new Toyota Sienna vans? No shade against the Siennas, but at the end of the day, you walked in there to buy one car, and if he starts talking about something entirely different, if he's making an assumption about what you want to see and what is interesting to you, he's probably going to lose that sale, or at least he's going to lose your interest very, very quickly. Now, most brands do the exact same thing. Most brands use email for just one-way communication. Now, this is such a missed opportunity because if you talk to your customers, you can learn so much more, and there's no better place to learn that from your current customers. Ask them why they're buying. Ask them what they're hoping for from your product. Ask them why they keep coming back. Ask them what they want to see. Ask them the next products you should add on. If you talk to your customers and just ask them questions, you're going to learn so much more and so much information that you really probably would have otherwise had no idea about. Now, you're going to want to ask different questions based off of where customers are at in their customer journey. Now, the customer journey has 8 different levels. You start with people who have really never heard about your brand in the awareness phase, and you build it all the way down into the referral phase of people who are VIPs, who have bought from you multiple times, who consistently buy from you, and who are really brand advocates. The way I look at the customer journey is in 3 different stages. The first is the acquisition phase. The second is the retention phase, and the third is the referral phase. Now, the first phase consists of awareness, consideration, preference, and intent. Now, at each one of those different stages, customers are going to have different objections, and you're going to want to meet them based off of those objections. Now, for example, let's say we have someone who is in the intent stage. They've added something to cart, and they've initiated checkout. Let's say, for example, it's a men's jacket, right? They really want this jacket. They've added it to cart. They've initiated checkout. They know what they want. So they don't need to hear about all the other products you have. They know exactly what they want, but they have some sort of objection. Something is holding them back. Now, usually at this phase, it's usually one of a couple different things. It could be shipping costs, shipping time, if they want to get something before the holidays. It could be product price. It could be trust. What we want to do is make sure that we're handling each one of the objections that people might have prior to them having them. And what we want to do is make sure we're trying to address the objection that people have in emails, in your retargeting ads, on the website, etc. Now, in the retention stage of the customer journey, there's 2 different levels. 1 is conversion. This is where they're actually purchasing. And 2 is achievement. Now, this is where 95% of brands just completely drop the ball. What happens when you purchase? What happens for a customer when they make a purchase from you? Are they getting like a standard Shopify template? Are they getting some instructions on how to get the most of their product? For most of the brands that I've seen prior to working with us, it's pretty standard. But what we really want to do here is make sure that the purchase isn't the end of the relationship, because that's how most brands function, right? You give your credit card and it's like, hallelujah, we won, we're good to go. But that could not be further from the truth, because the reality is where the true growth is going to come from is making sure that your customers actually achieve their desired result, which is step 2 in this retention phase of achievement. Now, step 3 is referral. And you're not going to get here unless you master acquisition and retention, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a product that people purchase and that they actually get results from, they're not going to come back no matter how great your marketing is, right? So in this stage, in the referral phase, you're looking at loyalty and you're looking at referral. Referral is that final stage, and that's where people are absolutely ecstatic. They purchased from you 3, 4, 5 times. They're going to refer their friends, their family, their cat, their dog, pretty much everyone under the sun to purchase from you. These are what we're shooting for. These are the types of relationships we're trying to build with customers. Now, the third thing here is make data your North Star. Now, a buddy of mine recently reached out to me and he had done millions of dollars a month in revenue for his store. And he reached out and he was like, dude, I just can't get things lifted off. I don't know why. I don't know what's going wrong. For some reason, things just aren't working. Now, I sat down with him and we looked at his numbers, and what I started looking at was like, okay, well, like let's pull the numbers from your meta ads, because that was his primary source of traffic. I pulled the numbers from the meta ads. I pulled his website numbers, and I was like, hey, it seems like there's like a pretty big drop off from add to cart to initiate checkout. He sells a pretty low value item. It's sub $100. And I looked at it and I was like, why is this happening, right? And just having worked across so many brands, I was looking at it and I'm like, this is like 40% lower than what it should be. Something strange is happening here. So we dove in there, and really what we started looking at is making sure that that metric was improving, because what we realized is like he was very close to profitability. He was actually slightly profitable, but not like greatly profitable. So he's slightly profitable, but then I was looking at it, I was like, this thing just seems way off. So we started focusing on that one thing that'll change the rest of the business. Because by doing that, let's say we had 100 add to carts and then we had 20 checkouts initiated and then 10 purchases from that. If we had from that 100 add to carts, instead of 40 or instead of 20 initiate checkouts, we had 40, or if we had 50, or if we had 60, that's going to 2 or 3 times the amount of purchases without changing anything else. This is why having data as your North Star is so important, because if you don't have a good grasp of what's going well and what's going wrong and like where things in your funnel may be broken, the reality is you're going to be flying by the seat of your pants and you're going to have no idea when something breaks or when something's doing well, right? How can we improve things? You're going to hit that kind of threshold at some point, and usually it happens on ads where you keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, and then you're like feeling the squeeze a little bit more on profitability, and sometimes brands will just pull back when they see that. But the reality is, if you can just make micro tweaks, if you can improve your website conversion rate by 20%, or if you could bring down your customer acquisition cost by 20%, that'll have a huge impact. Just what I would recommend is just drop the ego. And sometimes it's hard. I had this happen for myself. We were running ads for my agency, and I found that the ads without my face in it were actually doing better than the ads with my face in it. And that sucks, right? But at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? The data speaks for itself, right? Like these images are working better than videos of me right now. And you know what? You got to do what you got to do. You got to roll with what's working. Now, the fourth thing is outsource, but not too much. It's really important to stay connected. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see brands make is they outsource everything. They're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I just want to like chill, and I want to go drive my Lambo and go golfing and whatever. And that's cool, but it's really important, and you can do that. You just need to make sure you stay connected. So again, going back to number 3, make sure you rely on that data and you have a really strong foundation of like, these are all of the numbers that we need. If I have these 5 numbers, I know the business is either doing well or it's doing poorly, right? So I think it's important to outsource, but also have those checkpoints. And usually kind of what I look at when I'm looking to outsource is outsourcing into 4 different quadrants. So the quadrants that you are good at and you like, the quadrants that you're good at and you don't like, quadrants you're bad at and you like, and that you're bad at and you don't like. Now, typically I'll start offboarding the bad at and don't like, and maybe the good at and don't like. I will try to get the bad at and like too, but sometimes those are a little bit trickier. That's the kind of danger zone oftentimes. If you're bad at something but you enjoy it, I think that's where reflection and just a little bit of honesty to yourself is really important. That can go a really long way, because over time, if you just kind of try to keep doing everything yourself, it's not going to work. You need to find teams and you need to find people who you can rely on, and making sure that you're doing the things that are the most important things for your business. For me, it's content. For me, it's building the brand. For me, it's leading the team. And that might be different for you, but those are 3 of the things that are really, really important for me, and making sure we're drumming up business, right? We are at a point where our team is really, really great. So I don't have to worry as much about like the nitty gritty things, but that's because we have checks and balances in place. And that's because we have the right team in place too. Now, the fifth thing is delight your customers. Look at Amazon, look at Lululemon. If you have any issues there, return it. If you have any issues with Lululemon, you could have something go wrong 2 or 3 years down the line. You don't even need a receipt. You can just go in and they'll replace your product. If you have a tear in the seam or something like that, they're really, really great about that. And it puts customers at ease. When you're paying a little bit more of a premium, like you would at Lululemon, that's important too, right? Like what, from a customer experience standpoint, what would make people feel really great? And I was really surprised when that first happened, because I had a pair of pants and like, I hadn't worn them too much, but I hadn't worn them in like, a year or something like that. And I went and I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot about these. I started wearing them and there was like a big hole that emerged from like the crotch area. And it was just the seams had come loose. So I took it into Lulu and they were like, hey, when did you buy it? I'm like, honestly, it was probably a couple of years ago now. I haven't worn it a whole ton, and they replaced it, which was so great. And that was just like such a wow experience. I was actually, when I took it in, I was just hoping that they could sew it back up, and they ended up just fully replacing it, which was fantastic, right? So delight your customers. Now, number 6 is a big one. And it's something that I see a lot of brands in the $1 to $3 million range really fall into the trap of doing. They focus on just more. And what I mean by that is they focus on more platforms, more spend, more people, just more products they might have, more SKUs. Instead of focusing on more, what I would encourage you to do is focus on better, right? I'll give you an example with our agency, right? So instead of focusing on more clients, instead of focusing on more team members, I focus on, okay, how can we do better for our existing customers? How can we do better for our existing clients so that they stay with us longer and we don't even need new customers? Or we can be so selective of our new customers that we're just taking the cream of the crop, and the clients we know are going to be with us for years. So that's a big thing that I've shifted, and I learned the hard way earlier on in my career, and earlier on with my previous business as well. With this business, it's slow and better versus fast and just more. The same is true with ad platforms. Like, you don't want to be at the whim of just one platform, but you also don't want to be spending $10K a month on 7 different ones. I'd much rather you have 2 or maybe 3 platforms that generate most of your revenue. That way, if something happens to one of them, you can kind of fall back on another, but you don't want to be across 7, because then, when you increase spend on one or you increase spend on another, it's so much harder to understand and see and track and just understand what's working and what's not at the end of the day. Now, number 7 is one that took me quite a while to understand, is that systems will grow you to a certain level. And systems are phenomenal, and I love systems. I love SOPs, and they're absolutely crucial. And they're absolutely crucial if you want to grow to 7 or 8 or 9 figures, right? I can't speak too much to the 9-figure zone. I haven't worked with a lot of 9-figure brands, but certainly the 7 and 8-figure brands, systems will help you grow to that level by and large 100% of the time. But the thing that really takes people from that 7 to 8-figure zone is going to be team. Team will take you so much beyond what systems can do and what you can do alone. If you have a rockstar team, and if you just have a bunch of A players who love what they do, that will take you so much further. And candidly, you're going to have a hell of a lot more fun doing it. The last thing here is stay relevant. Keep refining your avatar. Make sure your products are still relevant. Really understand who your people are. Where do they congregate? Where do they go for fun? What do they read? What do they watch? Like, how do they speak? All of these things are so important, and a great way to stay relevant is kind of going back to step number 1 and just looking at communicating with people a little bit more, communicating with your customers and understanding them to their core. Who are they? Not just like what avatar are they, right? But who are they as a human being? Because that's where I was laughing about this, because I was talking about this with a client the other day. It's like most brands just think about their 40,000 person email list as a bunch of emails congregated. They're human beings for the most part, right? Like, sure, there's some bots and stuff, but like for the most part, they're human beings. And most brands don't treat their email list like they are human beings. They treat them like emails, or they treat them like revenue. That's not the best of way to build a relationship, right? Think of the relationships you build through money, not a lot of good ones, So hopefully these kind of 8 tips help you scale from 6 or to 7 or 7 to 8. And if you do have a D2C brand doing 7 figures or doing $50,000 a month minimum, I'd love to chat and see if maybe it makes sense to work together. There's a link just below this video. We do help with everything end to end with retention. So it's like email, SMS, loyalty programs, referral, etc. We do the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know what that word is or what it is, but anyways, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna go grab a coffee.